Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Ladies Lounge. We've got beautiful views at beautiful Noosa Beach this morning. Do you want to give us
Let
a
me just
little
give you a quick view of Noosa.
stunning?
It's one of those days where the ocean is extra sparkly. It's going, would you receive me today?
What a beautiful start to our conversation, really. You know, we were having a little chat as we do, and I think Viv and I often come in here and we talk a lot about, what is it that you would like to have as your life? What is it that you would like to create? And how having something new show up in your life can really be as simple as the willingness to ask for it. But there are other elements to that as well, and one of those is receiving. So what are you asking for that somewhere you are unwilling to receive?
That's a great question, Tiff. I know when I've asked for things in the past that have been, bigger, more contributory, more expansive, it requires me to expand my ability to receive it, because otherwise we tend to just live in this bandwidth of what we are familiar with and what makes us comfortable.
Yeah.
So there's a reach that's required, that when you do ask for something greater, that there is a level of receiving. Otherwise we end up rejecting it, pushing it away, sabotaging it, letting it die a natural death when it was ready to be received.
Yeah. So how do you recognize those things? Like, how do you recognize when you're sabotaging or pushing away, and what have you done? What have you experienced with starting to first recognize where you're doing that, and then second, change that so you can start to receive more?
So a really obvious one for me was receiving a gentleman into my life. He is a very different partner to anything I've experienced in other relationships. And when I look at my own development, evolvement, growth, whatever you want to call it, when I look at the men that I had in certain times of my life, they were a direct reflection of what I was believing I was worthy of having and being and receiving. So I look at how unhappy I was with how those men were treating me, and yet I allowed that. So to have this gentleman in my life now, where he opens the car door for me, he holds my back as we walk in and lets me walk in the door first, and it's just these little tiny gestures that, to start with, I was like, brushing away and making him almost wrong for it, because it was, the irony was, it was part of what I wanted, but I could sense that resistance of, I can open the door myself, I don't need you to help me. And it was that level of independence that I've been proud of that was actually starting to reject just the kindness, just these simple kind gestures that he wanted to be for me and treat me in a way that I wasn't used to being treated.
Yeah. And I think, so much of what you said there was so brilliant, but I think one of the things that really stood out to me is when you said, it had a lot to do with how you felt about yourself and what you thought you were worthy of or capable of having. And so I think that's another key for this too, is like, if you are asking for something greater in your life, whatever that is, and having what Viv's talking about is not everyone's cup of tea. It's not about you have to have a kind man in your life, but that's just one of the things for her that she was asking for. But when it started to show up, she noticed those places where she was like being mean to him or rejecting his kindness or being unwilling to receive the kind things that she was asking for in a man, and they were showing up, but noticing these places in herself where she was like, doing strange things really, to reject that.
And it felt so weird. It was just such a different part of me that I hadn't explored before, because I hadn't been treated that way. So it was like, why am I being so ungrateful here? Why am I being almost bitchy or unkind? And for me, that was how I noticed it. It was just this, it was just such a different energy in my world that I hadn't experienced before.
And I think that's, that's another real essence or energy that you're talking about, is the willingness to really be present with yourself, in the asking. And then, because truly, guys, when you ask for something, it will start to show up. And that's when you've got to be present with yourself and look at the places of like, am I willing to be a lady in the way that I receive? And if I'm not, it's okay. But what can I look at? What can I change? What can I uncreate and destroy here that's showing up that's not working for me? And I think that's the thing, isn't it? Just going, oh, okay, so this is happening. Okay, so everything this is, I destroy and uncreate it. Now, what question can I ask here to allow myself to relax and expand into the receiving of what it is that I would like?
Yeah, and that relaxing into receiving it just makes it so much easier. People, let me see if I can shortcut this for you. You recognize that the fight and the resistance, and I looked at it going, and I did ask questions. I'm like, what's the value of this? What's the value of rejecting receiving? What truly is the value of rejecting receiving what I've asked for? And it was so I could stay in control. It was so I could keep the barriers up and keep him at arm's length, which was the total opposite of what I actually truly desired. So, it's, we can do unusual things to ourselves. And it's that key of awareness to recognize the moment you're doing it. And like you say, Tiff, ask a question. Be aware that, okay, there's a weird energy here. You don't have to stay stuck in that. You can change it in the moment if you're willing to. And just relaxing into receiving.
Yeah. And if you can't change it in the moment, know that it is changeable and be gentle with yourself in the process too.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
and talking of receiving, I just want to add this just before we wrap up. It's like, if I just turn this over here for a moment, it's like, how is it easy for you to receive this? I mean, look at what the earth is contributing to our world, and the gentleness and the warmth and the space.
Yeah,
and the
wow.
peace. I see so many people that are here on holiday that, they've come from a city, or in the good old days when people used to travel from overseas, they'd still have their head down or on their phone and their hands in their pocket, and they'd be marching along the boardwalk here, and they're not even stopping to look at the view or the ocean. And it's just, there's another level of receiving. What can you receive around you today from around you?
Totally. And it's funny because you saying that, like, in the mode that I'm currently in today, I would probably be one of those people. I would probably be one of those people walking along with my head in my phone doing things. But what I also recognized in looking at, there was this moment of going, oh my God, I can do that. But the thing is that you can also do that and receive, which is a whole different level of receiving too. It's like you can be doing those things, and I get that's not the energy of what those people were doing, but you can do all of that stuff and still be totally present with everything around you, and totally aware of the beach, and totally receiving from the earth, and receiving from the boardwalk, and receiving from everything around you. So it's like nature is such a great way to practice allowing yourself to receive, because it is so, like, nature will teach you, the earth will teach you, the earth will show you what receiving is.
Thank you, my friend. Great conversation to start this beautiful, it's Friday morning here in Australia, so what a great welcome to the weekend wherever you are watching this. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, and thank you, beach, and thank you, earth, and thank you, Bib.
Bye, everybody from Noosa. Thanks,
Ciao.
Tiffy.